He smirked on the stand, like the badge on his chest made him immune. But across the courtroom, she didn't flinch. Because what he didn't know, the woman questioning him had spent her whole life learning how to dismantle systems like his, one lie at a time. The lights were dimmed in the courtroom as the video began to play. A faint static buzzed through the speakers, followed by the unmistakable hum of tires on asphalt. The timestamp blinked in the top corner. 2:17 a.m. The footage was grainy, washed in the sterile green of night vision. But the scene was unmistakable. A dark sedan pulled over on the side of a quiet road. Headlights still on. Windows rolled halfway down. Inside the car, the young woman's hands clutched the steering wheel, still and visible. Her voice, barely audible, trembled as she spoke. "Why was I pulled over, officer?" The man outside her window leaned in slightly. The courtroom saw his uniform, his badge, his smirk. Failure to signal, came the reply. Casual, detached, like he was ordering coffee. She fumbled for her ID, her student badge falling out of her wallet and landing on the seat beside her. The camera picked it up. Bright letters, Georgia State University. He didn't glance at it. What followed was harder to watch. She stepped out of the car as instructed, hands behind her back, before she could ask why. His voice stayed calm, almost too calm. "Routine check," he said. The courtroom was silent now, every eye fixed on the screen, every breath held. He patted her down, slow and deliberate. No backup, no female officer present. She asked again, voice cracking now. "Did I do something wrong?" There was no answer. Minutes passed on screen. No citation, no warning, no justification, just the sound of the officer's boots on gravel, a flashlight sweeping over her backpack, tossed onto the hood, papers scattered, lip balm, a textbook, nothing else. And then, without a word, she was told she could go. The video ended. Lights came back up slowly. No one moved. The jury stared forward, expressions frozen between disbelief and recognition. Judge Harmon cleared his throat, but didn't speak. The silence did more than his gavel ever could. Across the aisle, the defense shifted uncomfortably. Sergeant Clay Manning sat straight in his uniform, arms folded like a man who believed posture was power. His expression didn't change. Not yet. At the plaintiff's table, Maya Rivera didn't look at him. She looked at her client, Leah Carter, 19, biology major, first in her family to go to college. Leah's hands were in her lap, clenched. Maya reached over, laid hers gently on top. "You're not on trial," she whispered. "He is." Leah nodded once. Not bold, not brave, just steady. Because in that moment, surrounded by suits and silence, what mattered wasn't volume. It was truth. And the truth had just played for everyone to see. The courtroom doors swung open with a soft hiss of pressure and expectation. Maya Rivera stepped through like she'd been here before. And she had. Not this courtroom, but all of them. The ones that judged before a word was spoken. The ones where power sat comfortably in uniforms and suits, where truth had to fight to be heard. She moved with precision. No wasted motion. No unnecessary glance. Her charcoal grey suit was tailored, clean, nothing flashy. A single gold hoop in each ear. Her hair pulled back into a sleek bun. Her heels clicked against the tile. Not loud, just deliberate, like punctuation. Eyes followed her. They always did. Some curious, some dismissive, some calculating. But Maya didn't flinch. She never gave them the satisfaction of surprise. She had learned early. Composure was her armor. Her silence, when timed right, louder than any argument. She reached the plaintiff's table, nodding once to Leah Carter. The young woman sat small in her chair, shoulders tense, a single notebook in her lap. Maya leaned down slightly, her voice low but warm. "Breathe. You've already done the hardest part, surviving it." Leah managed a tight nod, eyes flicking toward the defense table. Maya followed her gaze, but didn't linger. Sergeant Manning sat beside his attorneys, legs wide, expression unreadable. His badge pin still gleamed under the overhead lights, polished and proud. But Maya didn't see power. She saw pattern, and she had come prepared to dismantle it. She unpacked her briefcase methodically. Files, exhibits, a small notebook with yellow tabs jutting from its edges, like flags marking every place he'd gone too far. She placed her pen beside it, aligned perfectly with the folder's edge. Control in motion. The court clerk called, "All rise." The judge entered, chairs scraped backward. The day officially began. Maya remained composed, hands clasped in front of her. Her tone during opening remarks was steady, unwavering. "This isn't a case about a bad night," she said, voice clear but restrained. "It's a case about power used carelessly, repeatedly, and a young woman who said no, not with force but with truth. No theatrics, no drama, just gravity." Across the aisle, Manning's attorney smirked like he'd heard it all before. But Maya saw it, that tiny flicker behind the eyes, the shift that said, "She's not here to posture, she's here to win." The jury watched her, pens paused mid-note. It wasn't the words alone, it was the way she said them, with the quiet certainty of someone who knew how systems worked because she'd fought her way through them. And this time, she wasn't just fighting for Leia, she was fighting to make sure no one like him ever walked away thinking silence was protection. Not today, not anymore. Sergeant Clay Manning took the stand like a man stepping onto familiar ground, shoulders squared, chin up, his uniform pressed sharp, badge polished to a mirror shine. The oath rolled off his tongue with casual ease, like muscle memory. He adjusted the mic, cleared his throat, and gave the jury a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. "My first priority is public safety," he began. "Always has been. That night, I observed erratic driving, failure to signal sudden lane changes. My training told me to proceed with caution." He said, training like it was scripture. The courtroom listened. Some nodded. Some didn't. "She seemed nervous," he continued, avoiding eye contact, fumbling. "I had to make sure there wasn't a threat. Drugs. Weapons. You can't be too careful these days." He made it sound reasonable, routine, the tone of a man used to being believed. But Maya Rivera sat still at the plaintiff's table, legs crossed, hands folded neatly. She didn't blink, didn't write, just listened. She waited. When the defense finished, the judge nodded. "Miss Rivera, your witness." Maya rose without hurry. She walked to the podium, heels silent now, steps measured. The room tensed, not because she was loud, but because she didn't need to be. "Sergeant Manning," she began, voice smooth as silk over glass. "You said the stop was based on erratic driving, correct?" He nodded. "Yes, ma'am." And yet she continued, flipping open a binder. "In your report, you wrote, driver appeared calm. No signs of distress or intoxication. That's your handwriting." He glanced down. "Yes, so was she calm or erratic?" A pause. "I meant her driving, not her demeanor." Maya nodded once. "Of course, let's talk about her driving. You mentioned sudden lane changes. Did your dashcam capture that?" "No. The angle. Did any other cars swerve? Honk, brake behind her?" "Well, no, but no citations were issued, correct?" "That's right." She took a step closer. "Not aggressive, just precise. So no citation, no warrant, no backup. And you conducted a full search of her person and belongings." He shifted. "It was a safety precaution. For whom?" He blinked. "For both of us." Maya let that sit, let the silence make him feel the question he hadn't answered. She turned to the jury. No prior record, no erratic behavior confirmed, no citation, and yet full search. She faced him again. "Sergeant, would you have handled the stop the same way if the driver had been a white college student on her way home from campus?" The courtroom held its breath. "I treat everyone the same," he said flatly. Maya smiled faintly. "I think the jury can decide that for themselves." She stepped back. No further questions. And for the first time since taking the stand, Manning didn't look so certain. The lights dimmed again. No announcement. Just a click from the clerk and the hum of the monitor flickering to life. "This," Maya said, stepping aside, "was captured by a security camera at a gas station less than 40 feet from where the stop occurred." The footage rolled, grainy, but clearer than the dashcam. A wide-angle view from above the pumps. It showed Leah's sedan cruising smoothly into the frame. Blinker on, speed normal, no swerves, no sudden moves, just a tired student on her way home. Then, the patrol car. No urgency, no flashing lights until after Leah had already pulled into the shoulder. The footage kept playing. It showed her waiting, still in the car, both hands visible on the wheel. It showed Manning approaching, slow and confident, one hand on his belt, the other casually brushing the side of the car before tapping on the glass like he owned the moment. There was no danger, no threat, just an imbalance. Maya let the video run a second longer than needed, long enough for everyone to feel it. When the screen went black, the silence was sharp, not stunned, angry. The juror in seat 5 shook her head slightly. One of Manning's attorneys shifted in his chair, lips pressed tight. In the gallery, someone let out a quiet breath like they'd been holding it since the stop began. Maya stepped forward, voice even. This wasn't a traffic violation. This wasn't erratic behavior. This was control. She turned toward the jury, her tone tightening like a thread pulled just enough to hold weight. My client wasn't fumbling. She was terrified. She wasn't suspicious. She was a student, driving home after studying late. The only unpredictable variable in that scene was the man with the badge. No objections came. Not this time. The defense sat frozen, waiting for the floor to stop shifting beneath them. Maya clicked the remote, and the video rewound. Just a few seconds to the moment, Leah's hands gripped the wheel. Right here, Maya said, gesturing. That is the exact moment she realized her dignity wasn't guaranteed. That no degree, no GPA, no careful compliance could shield her from being treated like a suspect in her own skin. The courtroom didn't move, didn't breathe. Maya lowered the remote and looked at the judge. We submit this as Exhibit D. Judge Marston nodded slowly. Admitted. She returned to her seat, calm, composed. Manning glanced toward the monitor, then quickly away, because in that one clip, the narrative cracked. And through the cracks, the truth started pouring in. The second round of cross-examination began quieter than the first. No video, no new exhibits, just words now, and the weight they carried. Sergeant Manning sat straighter this time, arms tight against his sides, but the confidence hadn't drained completely. His answers were shorter, clipped, like a man hoping the fewer the words, the fewer the cracks. Maya Rivera stood a few feet away, one hand in her pocket, the other resting lightly on her notes. She didn't flip pages, didn't pace. She didn't need to. Sergeant Manning, she began, voice calm. You testified earlier that your actions were based on training and experience. Correct. He nodded. Yes. And part of that training includes de-escalation tactics. It does. She tilted her head. Did you use any that night? His eyes narrowed. I remained calm. I gave instructions. She escalated the situation by becoming emotional. She cried. Maya clarified. He shrugged, raised her voice. Wasn't cooperating. She exited the vehicle, followed your commands, kept her hands visible, and asked why she was being searched. Are those actions considered non-compliant? He shifted. Depends on the tone. The tone, Maya repeated, softly. So it wasn't what she did, it was how she sounded. The jury leaned in. One man scribbled a note without looking up. Maya stepped closer. Sergeant, have you filed complaints against white drivers for tone before? I don't look at race, but you remember hers. A pause. His jaw tightened. Girls like her always get dramatic. The words landed like a brick dropped in water. The courtroom didn't gasp. It didn't have to. The court reporter's fingers froze on the keys. A pen clattered from the gallery. Judge Marston looked up slowly, his expression unreadable, but not uninterested. Maya let the silence stretch. Then she stepped forward. Just one step. Her voice still even, but sharp enough to cut. What exactly do you mean by girls like her? Manning blinked. I didn't mean. Yes, you did, Maya said, not rising in volume, but in precision, and the jury heard it. Girls like her. Meaning what? Black, young, educated, brave enough to ask why she was being searched. He looked to his attorneys. No one moved. Maya turned to the jury. That wasn't a slip. That was the truth coming out before it could be polished. She stepped back, her voice lower now, but laced with steel. This case isn't about poor judgment. It's about practiced bias. She let the words settle before saying the last. No further questions. And in that moment, the badge on his chest looked smaller than it ever had. Judge Marston removed his glasses with a slow, practiced motion. The courtroom was still. The air had shifted, not loudly, but unmistakably, like the way thunder rolls far off before the sky breaks. He set the glasses on the bench, folded his hands, and looked not at Maya, not at Manning's attorneys, but directly at the man in uniform still sitting stiff in the witness chair. "This court," he said, voice low but resonant, "is many things, but it will not be a shelter for bias in uniform." No one moved. "I heard the remark," he continued. "So did the jury. So did the young woman sitting at that table, whose only offense was being black, compliant, and inconvenient to your narrative." Manning's jaw flexed. His lawyers didn't blink. "I will remind you, Sergeant Manning, that your badge does not come with immunity from accountability. It is a symbol of trust, and what this court just witnessed was a breach of that trust, in plain language." Maya sat still, expression unreadable. Leah's hands were clenched tightly in her lap again, but her chin had lifted, just slightly. The judge turned to the jury. "You are here to weigh the facts, to assess the law, but I will say this clearly. Prejudice, whether overt or insidious, has no place in this room. No bench, no badge, no uniform, is above that truth." He turned back to the court as a whole. His gaze swept the gallery, then settled again on Manning. This wasn't a mistake. It was a reveal. A beat of silence followed, the kind that didn't ask for a response. It demanded reflection. "We will take a 15-minute recess," he said finally. "Counsel, remain in the room." The gavel tapped once. Clean, sharp, final. Chairs scraped back. Reporters shifted in the back row. The jury filed out slowly, eyes forward, heavy with what they'd just heard. Manning remained in his seat, but the posture, the ease was gone. His arms weren't folded now. His badge, still gleaming, looked less like protection, and more like evidence. Maya didn't speak, didn't stand. She simply placed her pen down gently beside her notes. Like the work was done for now, but not finished. The judge stepped down from the bench, robe trailing like gravity behind him, and in the quiet that followed, one thing was clear. Power could dress itself in uniform, but truth had just spoken, and the room believed her. The jury filed back in with the slow, silent gravity of people who understood the weight of what they were about to do. No eye contact, no fidgeting, just quiet resolve. Leah Carter gripped the edge of the table, knuckles pale. Maya placed a hand gently over hers. Steady, grounding. No words, just presence. The bailiff took the envelope and crossed the courtroom like it held more than just paper. And it did. Judge Marston unfolded the verdict with care, eyes scanning only once before looking up. "In the matter of Carter v. Manning," he said, voice steady, "we find in favor of the plaintiff. Compensatory and punitive damages awarded in the amount of $1.75 million. There was no gasp, no outburst, just the sound of something unspoken exhaling all at once. Leah's shoulders sagged, the tension leaving her body like a tide pulling back. Tears welled, quiet and hot, but she didn't wipe them away. Maya gave her hand the smallest squeeze. Across the aisle, Manning didn't move, his eyes fixed forward, blinking but not seeing. The badge on his chest now looked like a shadow of what it once symbolized. His attorneys sat motionless, the loss hanging in the air like smoke. Judge Marston gave a final nod. "This court is adjourned." The gavel dropped. One clean strike. Final. Outside the press was already assembled, cameras raised, boom mics overhead. Reporters pressed forward like a wave, trying not to break. "Maya, Miss Rivera, comment on the verdict. Do you believe this sets a precedent? Is Sergeant Manning facing disciplinary charges?" Maya stepped onto the courthouse steps, the sky overcast, the wind tugging at the corners of her blazer. She didn't lift her chin, she didn't raise her voice. She looked into the lens of the nearest camera, and said, clearly, calmly, "A badge isn't a license to intimidate. Justice wears no uniform." But today it spoke. The crowd went silent, just for a moment, and then the moment passed. Questions shouted, flashes popped, but Maya had already turned back toward Leah, guiding her down the steps, one hand lightly at her back. By the time the clip hit social media, it had already begun to spread. A single quote over a still of Maya, at the mic. Thousands of shares, tens of thousands of comments, applause, outrage, awakening. But Maya wasn't watching it unfold. She was back at her desk. The verdict filed, the case closed, her inbox full again. Another young woman's name blinking in bold, asking for help. Because Maya Rivera didn't go to court for the cameras. She went for the reckoning, and one win. It wasn't enough. Not yet. If this story moved you, if you felt the weight of Leah's fear, the strength in Maya's calm, and the power of truth breaking through silence, don't let it end here. Subscribe to Black Roots for more stories that challenge bias, spotlight justice, and amplify voices too often ignored. Share this video with someone who still believes silence equals protection. Drop a comment below. What moment hit you the hardest? Stay tuned, because Maya Rivera isn't done, and neither are we.